All right, we are here again.
Back in the country.
Yes, just came from where?
Mexico.
Yes, and then we're here today with Dr. Heidi Pottinger.
Yep.
Yes.
Hi.
And how do we know Heidi?
Oh, we know Heidi through her husband, and I've known Heidi for a couple of years now. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty cool ride so far. So her husband's in real estate, and then Heidi's been in the industry of, is it mental health?
Public health.
Public health, okay. And currently, and correct me if I'm wrong here, research and evaluation committee for typically children with cerebral palsy. Or is it cerebral?
So I work with so for my primary role, I'm in clinical research for the Department of Health Promotion Sciences, and that's at the University of Arizona with the College of Public Health. And I also volunteer for Integrative Touch for Kids, and I'm part of their research and evaluation committee. And Integrative Touch for Kids is a nonprofit here in Tucson that helps children with any special health or medical need and their families. With
How big is that
therapies.
organization? Is it pretty big, or is it just starting out?
No, they've been around since 2008,
Okay.
and they are the largest pediatric integrative wellness program in the country.
So there's a little bit of a house divided there. U of A. And
I heard that.
ASU.
I heard that. Yes.
Man,
Yeah.
So Travis is a diehard ASU fan,
Yeah.
like a freak.
and
Yeah.
then went into a career that doesn't require a degree.
Yes. And then he's married. So the better half is that U
So
of A.
interestingly, I started at U of A,
Okay.
transferred to ASU,
Okay.
got my bachelor's and my first master's degree at ASU,
Okay.
and then transferred to U of A and got my second master's and my doctorate from U of A. So I'm sort of a bridge
Okay.
in the family.
But the start and finish is U of A.
Yeah.
So
There you
that's
go.
all. That's all we need.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting day on a Saturday evening when they're playing each other, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We love
good.
both.
Good. So as we were talking about the organization, one of the organizations. So we get back to, so what do they primarily focus on? You're saying
So Integrative Touch for Kids in particular focuses on children who are in the hospital here at Banner Children's Hospital, and providing integrative healing therapies and wellness education to the patients, the children, and their family members, and also staff. And that's called the Hospital Heroes Program. And they also have healing circles, which are every few months over at the children's clinics, and that's for families in the community, not necessarily hospitalized children, to sort of experience the same sort of integrative therapies as a family, and wellness education. And they also have annual retreats where they bring families together for a week-long retreat every year. And I actually evaluated their Hospital Heroes program for my dissertation.
And Banner is UMC.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So Diamond Children's Hospital is where
Yeah.
Hospital Heroes, that program, currently
That's
operates.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
so what is, if there's a segment of that program that you're really passionate about, what is it? by chance?
Hospital Heroes.
Oh, yeah?
I started with Integrative Touch for Kids, or ITK, when that program started. And so I've really been with the organization from the beginning, and recently, like I said, helped to evaluate the impact of that program from the perspective of the healers, the therapists, and also getting quantifiable data. You know, how is this impacting fear and anxiety and pain and overall well-being for patients, for their family members, and for the staff. And this can be in a matter of 15 minutes to an hour to, multiple sessions where we look at specific cases, but they're operating as an organization all the time in the hospital.
Wow.
So how do they kind of measure something when you have a little bit of a communication
You say
barrier?
the quantifiable
Yeah,
part.
I mean,
Yeah.
that would be very tough.
It is. So we do parent, so because there are sessions with the family, we usually can get, reported data from them, self-reported data from them.
Okay.
We haven't been able to really quantify those numbers for those children who can't communicate, right, or can't
Very well.
self-report.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're looking at right now is how can we assess medication usage?
Mm-hmm.
over time, as a result of their participation or receiving services. Can that impact the number of readmissions? Can that impact their length of stay? Mm-hmm. So really looking at the data in a different way, and also, hearing from the parent's perspective what the impact was on the child, hearing from the child health, services within the hospital. What did you witness as a result?
Yeah. Gotcha. The overall outcome.
How are they sleeping? Because that you can.
Yeah.
You can
and
see.
Is this inpatient and outpatient?
This is mostly inpatient. Yeah. So for the bone marrow, for the children who are going into the bone marrow clinic to get those outpatient visits, I believe were operating in the clinic for a while, but most of the time it's for the inpatient.
And is this one diagnosis, or is this several? You guys are evaluating several different.
Anyone who is in the hospital, inpatient, at Denver Children's can receive services free of charge.
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
so it's the whole gamut. Yeah. I mean, it's.
So you had mentioned something about heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me more about that, because I hear it a couple different ways. Mm-hmm. I look at it as I've got a second cousin, Carter, and he was actually on one of the podcasts. He's actually my hero. Mm-hmm. So are you saying in relation that you have medical staff that are heroes, or what is it that? How am I hearing it correctly or not, or what is the hero part of it?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that a lot of the times the staff, when they have sort of these problems where they feel like there's nothing that they can immediately do, they call in the integrative touch for kids therapists.
Gotcha.
And that's not where the name comes from. Okay. Hospital heroes, I actually don't know where the hospital heroes name comes from. But just from my own experience, that's where I see sort of that coming in and helping when maybe there's something in that particular case that people are stumped with.
Gotcha. So there was I don't know if you saw that video. There was a video of kids in the hospital, and there was a dancing doctor. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, dude, that is so cool.
I thought you were going to talk about the guy who dresses as a superhero and washes the windows.
Oh,
I've seen that as well. Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yes, on the outside. Yes, and then. Actually, the Iowa Hawkeyes, here in my room standing up, they do this at their football games. I don't know, have you seen that? To where whenever the end of the first quarter, I do believe, everybody stops, and even the players and everybody, and they wave up at the children's center up there.
Chills,
So that kind of stuff right there, not only that, but whoever designed a hospital to be right there to allow that kind of entertainment, goodness gracious.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the reason I was so drawn to it from the beginning is because of my mom. Mm-hmm. And, I think a lot of people might consider their mother their first hero, or, maybe their forever hero. Yeah. And so my mom passed away when I was a year old. And the story that I was told was that when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she was pregnant with me. And her team of, doctors said, well, you can either receive treatment for your breast cancer, but you will have to abort your daughter. Wow. Or you can go forward with the pregnancy and see what happens, right? And so what I always was told, she said to my father, who said that he would support her either way, was, how many times in your life do you get the chance to be a hero?
Wow.
And so she decided to move forward, to not receive the treatment, and I was born, and she lived for 14 months after that. So for me, I have roots in the hospital. In that particular hospital is actually where my mom was.
Wow.
So for it to come full circle like that for me, and that being my doctoral dissertation work, and also what really aligns with me and my heart.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think this podcast can turn a totally different route if we went down that trail, but by God, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It really is.
So what I am in the process of starting my own nonprofit, and what I'd like the message to be is that love is your superpower.
Okay. Explain more.
So we talk about superheroes, and we all have this ability to love ourselves, each other, or other people. And I think in different instances when we're suffering, that love to self can open you up to receive love and to give love, and can be very powerful and can change the world. It could change you, it could change your family, and it could change your community, and it could change the world. So
I totally agree.
love is your superpower.
Couldn't agree more.
And it's a legacy, and it's something that you may not be around to see. And I look at, like, let's look at your story as your mom literally the ultimate sacrifice of laying down her life for another, which is you.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, your job now, your and nonprofit that you're starting, like how it just snowballs in a single act.
But it takes loving yourself to get to that place, because for a long time, you know, I took on the responsibility of, well, if it weren't for me, my family wouldn't have suffered this great loss. Our family system wouldn't have been rocked.
Yeah.
Everything as a result of, you know, losing the heart of our family, our mom, changed everything for everybody. And so for a long time, I felt very guilty about that. But then when I really got to the core of it and saw it as, no, this had nothing to do with me. This was her labor of love for me and her family, and you know, then it shifted, right? And you become more resilient. And so if you can shift your perspective, that's everything.
Wow.
And then you can become more resilient, because otherwise it can take either a kind of path, or, you know, can.
That's right. So what is as in the organization, what do you see in 5 to 10 years with that organization? If you could paint the perfect your nonprofit.
The one that I'm hoping to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like
5 to 10 years out, what does it look like for you?
You look back and it goes, this is a success.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool.
That's a big question. I think.
How many?
Being more accepting of the different ways in which we can heal, and opening the perspective of what it looks like for people. So for instance, my brother's a veteran, and I come from a family of veterans, my father, my grandfather, and you know, there's this trauma that's, you know, sort of like seated in the body, and because they are men, it's, you know, expected that they deal with that in a particular way. And I would wish for nothing more than men and women alike, and children, to really just see what's available to them, what do they already have within them, if they tap into it, to heal themselves, right, and to help heal others.
We had a behavioral specialist talking about on the podcast last week, talking about healing and suicide prevention, and that's kind of her arena there. And you kind of triggered a couple things that she was talking about.
Oh, okay.
You know, and that's actually very intriguing as well, to get people to recognize it first, you know, and understand that there's avenues of help that are out there.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you look back and you try to reflect inward first, is what you're talking about. I think that's a huge element in this, you know. But
yeah, and the other thing too, I mean, like on the other side of it is, from the very beginning, we have a lot of women who suffer from postpartum depression, and the medical community is not always screening for it, because there's nowhere for them to go afterward. There's no services for it. So being able to provide the resource could then, you know, just because they haven't been screened from it doesn't mean they don't have it and they're not suffering from it.
So my wife, with our first child was, there was a lot of complications, and she spent time in the NICU, which, you know, we were a young family, young 20s, and so it wasn't like you have the baby, then you go home and you start this grandiose life. It was back and forth to the hospital type stuff, and my wife was fine. 8 days later, she got out of the NICU, and my wife's postpartum set in when we got home. Because she wouldn't feed because of the previous 8 days and whatnot, and I can remember that the only advice we got medically was just make sure you get outside. That was the medical advice.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, get up.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, get outside. Don't stay in the house.
Wow.
And it passed and got through it, but it was young family. Not only having the medical issues with our daughter, and I can see how you're talking about how it affects the family. I can remember sitting at the dinner table because my wife literally did not get out of bed for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting across the table from my dad, and I was tired, I was drained, and not knowing what was going on. And I sat across from him. He goes, "You doing okay?" And I started crying. I'm like, "Am I gonna have to raise my daughter by myself?" Because that was just my psyche. But our medical advice was just make sure that she gets out of the house and get some air and some sun. I'm like, well, we tried that. Sitting on the porch for 30 minutes did not help.
So people have to really suffer in silence, almost, or in silos, and so it's hard to reach out. It's hard to recognize and reach out, and it impacts the whole family. And even if it's for a short stint of time, here you are thinking really big, long-term repercussions, and your brain doesn't know the difference between imagined stress and real life scenario stress.
Yep.
So that's real for you.
Sure.
You're really going through that. And so I guess again, going back to the long term, what would I hope to see in 5 to 10 years is that people realize that they don't have to suffer in silence or silos, and it's okay to be able to connect with each other, to be able to connect with source or God or
we would have given anything
love.
To have a phone number to call, you know what I mean, to know there's a resource out there. We call a doctor. And
so are there groups to where I'm gonna say families and patients, is that what can come together, or are they more independent
for
still?
Integrative Touch for Kids? There are. They do have.
So what's Integrative Touch for Kids? That's the actual.
That's the name of the nonprofit.
Okay.
Operating in Tucson, which helps children with special health or medical needs.
Gotcha. Now, is that basically actual human touch that heals?
So there are numerous therapies, modalities that fall under the scope of what they offer. The most common that people are familiar with are massage, meditation, yoga, but there's also things like Reiki, which you may or may not have heard about, and healing touch, which is really common in the nursing field, and a lot. So these are like biofield, what you would call biofield therapies, but then there's also body-based techniques like massage therapy. But one of the sessions that I that was included as part of the evaluation that I did had 19 different types
Oh my goodness.
of therapies that they were receiving, because they receive these from a team of practitioners. It's not just one practitioner going in there, and that's what's really unique about their program is they have 2 or 3 that go in and really are able to elevate the quality of the session that's received. There's a long menu of services, but usually it's
where can somebody find
relevant.
these services? Where can they find a list of these services that are available potentially?
If they wanted to receive them in the community, or if they wanted their children.
Either or. Either or.
So if they're in the hospital, they would want to reach out to Child Life or their healthcare practitioner and let them know that they're interested in receiving a Hospital Hero session. And you can visit their website, integrativetouch.org.
Okay.
That's another place where you can go and learn more about each of their programs, not just the hospital program.
So, Integrated Touch I'd heard of because 2 years ago, a Women's Council Realtors event sponsored it. that the monies that was
Wow.
raised from the auction went over there, and a young man, I mean, he was probably 16, I think, came up and kind of shared his story and stuff. It was pretty cool. So what are some of the, I don't know how much you can elaborate on this. Maybe diagnosis is the word or isn't the word, that are some of the most ones that people don't recognize that could be treated. I don't know if that makes sense.
Or
like,
some of the symptoms, or what are they?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more obvious ones that it would help. Like people go, oh yeah, you've got cerebral palsy or this or that. This would be great. Is there some that diagnoses or whatnot that parents, they just assume that there's no help for the kid, or that this maybe wouldn't fit that style
I mean,
of therapy?
it's hard to answer that question because so what you're talking about is called an orphan disease.
Okay.
And I worked a lot with orphan diseases at the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And what
Okay.
it means is that your disease is so rare that there's not a lot of money out there to support research for
Gotcha.
it, or programs for your particular, disease or condition. And so what ends up happening is a lot of these kind of pool together, and an organization will come in and cover them
Okay.
under an umbrella.
Gotcha.
And try to identify different ways to support them, based on what they specifically have, as well as a whole. So things that are more common amongst people who are suffering from a
Gotcha.
particular disease or condition. Yeah.
How can the general public help out?
I mean, there's many different ways that the general public can help Integrative Touch for Kids. They are constantly looking for volunteers. So if you go
Okay.
to their website, integrativetouch.org, you can submit your information, and their program coordinator, Katie Frazee, will contact you, and you would attend a volunteer orientation. And then they'll identify different ways in which you can give back.
What are some of those? Yeah, what are some of
So
those?
some of the different ways are through healing circles, so being able to help put together meals, or
Okay.
help in the office, or getting ready for these events. There's the Integrative Touch for Kids annual gala, which is happening in February.
Okay.
And so they always need volunteers to help with setup and organizing the auctions that they have. So it really just depends. I think we're always in need of volunteers, and
Gotcha. How big is that gala gonna be?
Can tailor
Yeah.
it to
It seems like there's,
your talents.
yeah, regardless of your skill set, they can find some
A need, yeah.
It could be picking up folding chairs.
Yeah.
It could
But
be
a lot of times,
cooking.
there's maybe therapists out in the community who want to donate their time as a massage therapist, or a Reiki practitioner, or an equine mental health therapist, or
That's great.
Okay.
whatever,
That's awesome.
whatever's in your
So this
wheelhouse.
gala that's happening for them, how big is that?
Oh, it's gotten pretty big.
Yeah?
It's several hundred people, and it's a great event. They have a lot of really dynamic speakers come in, and they have different items up for auction, different vacations, and
So then all the proceeds come back to
yeah, exactly.
go back towards the
So I
organization.
think tickets are on sale now. It does sell out
Mhm.
pretty quick, so if
Yeah.
people are interested in going, they should go on again to integrativetouch.org
Okay.
to buy tickets for that.
Well, that's pretty neat.
That's awesome. What excites you the most about your job?
So my job, my primary role, as I mentioned, is working on this clinical trial for children with CP. And the thing that excites me the most about my work is being able to see the impact on families as a result of the resource that we're able to provide as part of that.
Yeah.
Do you still stay in contact with some of these families, or
Yeah.
do you?
I do. So we started in 2014, and
Okay.
we're still enrolling patients, children between 12 and 36 months of age who have diagnosis of spastic cerebral palsy, and so the protocol itself is a 48-week protocol, so it's almost a year long.
Wow.
So we're really getting to know families very well.
Over a year, I bet you do.
Over a year. And, as you know, children change so much from week to week
Yeah.
that, 1 year means a lot as far as their development goes, as far as their lives are concerned. And so being able to watch them grow up and see them realize their potential as much as possible.
So I don't know if you're aware of
Based on
this or
what we
not.
can-
There's a event that's coming up. This might be right up your alley. It's Dick Hoyt. Do you know who Dick Hoyt is?
No.
Dick Hoyt has a son that had cerebral palsy, and he's known worldwide for actually including his son in his long distance endurance events, such as triathlons, marathons, and there's some very, very unique articles out there. And he has established an organization. Matter of fact, there's one here in Tucson. It's a Dick Hoyt Foundation. We have another
Team Hoyt.
Team Hoyt. Yep, and they go around and they provide different wheelchairs or running apparatuses to involve children and their families
Okay, yeah.
to allow them to compete and do races. But he's coming out to do a speech. I do believe it's next month.
Mhm.
I'll get you more info later,
Okay.
but
Thank you.
there might be some contacts there for you to
Yeah.
talk to, and there'll be a room full of kids and people with cerebral palsy.
In fact, there's one
Mm.
family that participated that, so another role that I have in the community is part of an organization called Arizona Sonora Border Projects for Inclusion.
I've heard about that. Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's ARSOBO. And what we do is we help people who have disabilities who use a particular device. We train them on how to make that device, and for others in the community in northern Mexico to have these devices that are low cost, high quality, and for instance, the wheelchairs are all terrain, so
That's awesome.
we can adapt these for
Mhm.
children who have developmental disabilities who need them to be very specifically adapted for them, or for events,
Yeah.
to be able to participate in
That's
certain
awesome.
things. For the most part, it's day-to-day living, but the individuals in the factory down in Nogales, Sonora, Mexico, have made these bikes that are all terrain, that are adapted.
We had one of the veterans that was
Yeah. So
disabled.
Ricky, one of the vets that we've talked about, Ricky's not a veteran.
That's right, correct.
But he's up. He's from Mexico City.
Mhm.
He's up here on a scholarship for hand cycling to U of A. But he got his start. He was paralyzed in a motorcycle accident when he was 16. He's 22 now. But he did off-road mountain bike racing down
A
essentially.
bike that
but
was
it's-
modified. Yeah.
But it's you lay down and you use your hands.
Yes, exactly. So
And-
so we've made a few of those.
Yeah, so just looking at that type of stuff, I look at Carter and his chair for riding and whatnot, is how these custom apparatuses, I don't want to say it makes them feel normal per se. It makes them feel even more special.
Included.
Included.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best word, because I think we feel that, hey, we're trying to help out in any way that we possibly can. And when you get a team of engineers or individuals that can kind of make that stuff happen,
Yeah.
that's huge. That's just huge.
So we were
I
trying
know
to
it's
get Travis. I don't know if you guys know this about Travis, but
Please tell us.
he trained
No.
on his own for a half marathon,
Okay.
and then he ran it by himself. And so he didn't want to participate in any sort of event where anybody would come and watch him
Yeah.
or cheer him on or anything. It was something that he was doing for
For
himself.
Good for him.
And for his mom, who has passed. And so one of the things that the Arsobo co-founder thought would be cool would be to have maybe Travis actually participate in one of these community organized half marathons and include one of the children
There you go.
that's since completed the clinical trial. that
They
we
just
did.
had a Nike sponsorship of a kid. Did you see that?
Yeah.
With cerebral palsy.
Yep.
He's on one of the teams there, and they came out. I thought that was pretty cool. Good
Yeah.
on them. Good
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
What's besides volunteering? Is there a financial need as well within the organization?
For Asobo, yes. I mean, all the time, because while we're almost sustainable, we still have to make payroll every month. And so the organization, the individuals who we've hired to make these devices, this is their livelihood, and they serve others in their community who have their same type of disability, and we want to be able to know that's never going to be, and it's never has been. And let me say, we always make payroll, but to be able to come from a place of saying we have enough in the bank to
have margins.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So if people are interested in donating, we are a 501c3 public charity. They can go to arsobo.org to donate.
That's fun.
Yep. How many more degrees are you gonna get?
I'm finished.
Is this it?
Finished? Done, huh?
This is it?
Well, I'm actually part of, right now, and I'm really proud of this affiliation, but I was nominated and selected for the Tucson Public Voices Fellowship.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And that's part of, I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's part of the Op-Ed Project, which is a national push to get more women involved in sharing their stories and really changing who writes history. And so it's supported locally by the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona, the University of Arizona, and several philanthropists. So I'm part of a media-long training
good
now.
For you. So you're leaving a legacy there as well.
Yeah.
So it's a year-long training, yeah.
Well, good for you.
I think the most impressive thing is I remember Travis telling me you finished your doctorate while having a newborn baby.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's
so
the craziest
my
part.
our children, Travis's and my children are my deadlines. I always say, like
That's
I've like dedicated my Master of Public Health degree to my son because I was pregnant with him when I was finishing that, and then with Lucy, I was pregnant with her, and so it was like they're coming. You got to finish.
Good for you.
Nothing like the deadline.
So, hopefully you don't get surprised and go, hey, there's one more on the way. There's another degree coming.
Yeah.
Travis we've hung up
done.
our cleats. Yeah.
Yes. Good.
That is
well, he's
so
a stand-up guy. I tell you what.
Oh yeah.
I've known him for many years. So really good. Big heart. Tell you what. Matter of fact, just a plug for your husband and you. When I was down in Haiti, one of the young kids broke his arm. I actually, unfortunately, watched it happen. And the way things work down there's no such thing as insurance. They have to pay up front. So I was able to make a call back to the States, and collectively between some people, and he was one of them, we ended up funding his surgery. And but my mind went into the mode of what would have happened if we would have done nothing. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, he would have probably been more of a hindrance to the village than a help, the way things work. So, again, stand-up guy.
Yeah. So, there was no question in our minds that that was something
it's great to have people out there like that.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's the real value in just talking and connecting, and there's always somebody out there who's going to hear the message and it's going to resonate with them.
That's right.
And
that's why. I'll be honest. That's kind of why we're doing this. If there's one person it resonates with, then we changed something. We did something good.
Yes.
I came out of 15 years of pastoring churches and starting churches and stuff, and I used to feel dirty asking people for money to come along a journey on something.
Yeah.
And I had somebody sit me down years ago and said, don't feel dirty about asking people to come along an awesome experience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we've taken with, we literally got back yesterday at 5 p.m. from building a house for a family in Mexico in 3 days, helping the hand cyclists, that type of stuff. That's why, so I don't know if you put this together, Aaron, the last 3, this has become a medical podcast because the last...
It has. We had Dr. Holes. We had...
Last 3. Yeah. So, but a lot of it, and we talk about all this stuff because it's like, I want opportunities to get involved in cool stuff that are changing people's lives because we talked about it at our meeting this morning is money's fleeting. It comes and it goes. Identity can't be wrapped up in money. At this point, it's about leaving a legacy and helping change people's lives.
And it's the law of attraction. The
yes,
more you give, the more you receive.
Yep.
And the more you give, this is proven in science too. for, since this is a medical podcast,
Yep.
is that, the giver actually
Receives more, I think.
improves their well-being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Yes.
it's
That,
Beautiful thing.
somebody had mentioned something like that. The giver's the one that's gaining more than the one that's receiving.
Yeah.
And
It's pretty awesome.
yes,
and there's many ways to do that, it's whatever is in your heart to do, whatever is
Yep. And I'm bold enough to say, it's okay if you don't have the time to participate in that, then open up the wallet and that's okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I
Or
think,
vice
like,
versa.
for instance,
Exactly.
with this recent issue of family separation at the border, a lot of people were feeling very helpless, and I was one of them. And I thought, well, what can I do right now with what I have,
Yeah.
with where I am? And I think that we can all ask ourselves that in
right.
relation to anything. What can I do with what I have, with where I am
Yep.
That's right.
now?
It brings things to light. It brings it straight to surface.
I look at, like, an example is the gala you guys have. Someone that's listening or watching this, they may not have a penny to give, but they can come help clean up and help carry, shoulder the burden
right.
of labor.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. There's always.
Yeah. Or if you're Spanish is your second language and you want to come along to one of our
Right.
clinics in Nogales, Sonora, and
Yep.
help our team of volunteers translate.
huge.
That's been really impactful for those volunteers,
Yeah.
and that's what they offer.
That's
That's
pretty cool.
awesome.
Or the community will rise to meet the need. So a lot of times the community will come together and make food for
For sure.
everyone in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Was it? We have one life. Let's not waste it.
Yep.
Do what we got to do.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Any last words of wisdom? Because we have the opportunity to chat after this gets shut off. But
I guess just, again, don't forget that love is your superpower for yourself, for your family, and for others.
That's awesome.
you're awesome.
You're
Great.
awesome.
Thank
Good
you
job.
for
Thank you
everything.
so much.
Thank
And
you
again,
for
to
having
reach
me.
out, different organizations. Let's recap real quick. Talk to me real quick about which ones.
Integrative Touch for Kids,
Okay.
our SOBO, or Arizona Sonora Border Projects for Inclusion,
Okay.
and the other one is
We will share.
Coming soon, and we're going to be all over that.
They
So
will know.
we'll be all over that. So all right. Well, until next time.
All right. We're
Got
good.
it. There we
Thank you,
go.
guys.
Later on.